Imagine the old circuses, dusty grounds, flickering lights, and a crowd holding its breath. Behind each curtain stood someone the world couldn't explain. These weren't costumes or clever acts. They were real people with appearances that twist every part of your brain. Audiences didn't know whether to clap or stare in silence. They didn't just perform. They challenged everything you know about circus. And now, get ready to see the top 15 circus freaks so unbelievable. You won't trust my words until you see them yourself. This is where strange meets unforgettable. So let's dive into their lives. Number 15, the Doll Family. Crowds didn't just stare at the Doll Family, they adored them. 4 tiny siblings with enormous stage presence, dancing and joking with the kind of chemistry only a real family can pull off. Their act wasn't a gimmick, it was living proof that charm can outshine any spotlight. Their small figures moved across the stage with a precision that felt almost choreographed by instinct, each sibling stepping into the light as if the glow recognized them. Harry, Daisy, Tiny, and Gracie Earls carried dwarfism, yet the camera and circus crowd saw something far larger, a quartet whose timing, costumes, and bright expressions formed a seamless frame. They danced for Ringling Bros, traded lines in vaudeville, and appeared in films like Freaks and the Wizard of Oz, their presence steady and unmistakable. The rarity of 4 siblings sharing the same condition gave their performances a visual harmony that looked unreal at first glance and unforgettable by the second. Number 14, Count Orloff. People lined up expecting a monster and walked away whispering. Count Orloff's skin was so thin that lanterns seemed to glow straight through him, turning his body into a living window. And the strangest part? The more unsettling he looked, the more impossible it became to look away. Count Orloff, born Ivanov Vladislaus von Dziarski Orloff, was displayed as the only living transparent and ossified man. His frame showed advanced wasting, leaving him with a skeletal appearance and skin that appeared unusually thin under light. Promoters advertised that light passed through him strongly enough for observers to view vessels beneath the surface, heightening his reputation as the human window pane. He was often described as ossified, though later assessments suggest his condition involved significant bone demineralization rather than true calcification. Number 13, Admiral Dot. The moment Admiral Dot marched out in that ornate Navy uniform, half the tent forgot to breathe. He wasn't just tiny, he carried himself like a commander expecting the world to salute. Something about his confidence made you wonder whether size had ever mattered to him at all. Admiral Dot, born Leopold S. Kahn, stepped into Barnum's spotlight at barely 25 inches tall, a figure whose scale invited immediate attention. The uniform helped shape his presence, but it was the way he held himself that created a quiet tension around him, a performer so small yet so firmly placed at the center of the stage. His family included 2 other dwarf siblings, Major Adam and General Pin, a rare cluster that deepened the sense of unusual lineage surrounding him. Barnum leaned into the naval theme, positioning him as Tom Thumb's counterpart. But much of the weight in his act came from the contrast between his size and the authority he projected. All right, the next one pushes the limits even further. Let's move on. Number 12, Pony Boy. Audiences froze the second Pony Boy stepped into view. His back bent so sharply he moved with the slow rhythm of a small horse. No costume, no trick. Just a body shaped by a condition almost no one could name, and a presence that left the entire tent silent. Pony Boy was a name applied to performers whose spinal deformities produced a forward-curved torso and 4-limb gait. One documented figure, Robert L. Huddleston, walked on hands and feet with his back pitched downward, creating the visual impression that inspired the nickname. These acts were often advertised as half man, half horse, though the reality reflected severe congenital or early life spinal and joint conditions. Only a small number of such performers are recorded in sideshow history, placing the category within a narrow corner of circus exhibition. Number 11. Felix Verla. Anyone who saw Felix pinch his own skin and stretch it inches away from his body remembered that moment forever. It wasn't flashy, it was unsettlingly real. Every demonstration felt like a glimpse into the limits of human biology. Limits he seemed to bend like rubber. Felix Verla stepped into sideshow tents, carrying a condition that shaped nearly everything he displayed. His skin lifted softly under his fingers, stretching farther than most people could imagine, each movement revealing the quiet oddity of hyperextensibility. Later, medical research linked him to one of the earliest photographic examples of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a connective tissue disorder already rare in its mild forms and far less common in its extreme expressions. He traveled with Barnum and Bailey, offering demonstrations that blended curiosity with a muted sense of fragility. Number 10. Jack Ragland. Jack Ragland's posters promised an ostrich boy, but nothing prepared visitors for the awkward bird-like stance he carried so naturally. It wasn't polished showmanship. It was raw, strange presence, the sort that nudges your brain and whispers, "You've never seen anything like this, and you probably never will again." Jack Ragland sits in sideshow history as a name without clear documentation. Banner art shows the Ostrich Boy title, but the records don't offer a confirmed biography or diagnosis. Most performers under this label leaned on a forward-leaning posture, unusual leg structure, or costuming that pushed the bird comparison. Ragland appears to fall into the uncertain space between real individuals and promotional imagery, a figure mentioned but not traced. With so little material surviving, he becomes a reminder of how some sideshow identities existed more in posters than in recorded life, leaving a fragment rather than a full profile. Number 9. Baby Ruth Pontico. Baby Ruth didn't walk on stage. She arrived, filling the space with sheer magnitude. People expected shock. Instead, they got a performer who owned her form with disarming boldness. Her size wasn't a side note. It was the act, the spectacle, and the unapologetic claim to her own spotlight. Ruth Smith, later known as Baby Ruth Pontico, grew up in a family where size shaped the family business. Her mother had once reached more than 700 pounds, and Ruth followed with an even greater weight, often billed between 770 and more than 800 pounds. The numbers alone placed her among a tiny handful of people ever documented at that scale, something medical reviews from the 1940s confirmed. She worked with major circuses during the Depression, earning unusually high daily wages that kept her name in circulation. Get ready, because the following performer takes things in a completely unexpected direction. Number 8. Charles Tripp. The tent always fell quiet when Charles Tripp slipped off his shoe and picked up a razor with his toes. No one laughed. No one blinked. Watching him work was witnessing pure determination shaped into skill, proof that ability can grow exactly where the world least expects it. Charles Tripp lived without arms, a circumstance present from birth, and he adapted by turning his feet into tools that shaped every task. He wrote letters, shaved, crafted woodwork, and even rode bicycles, sometimes performing tandem routines beside Eli Bowen, who lacked legs. His work spanned 50 years, with major shows like Barnum and Bailey, and his image eventually became the template for the armless wonder banners that continued long after him. Limb reduction conditions of this severity appear in only a small number of births, which added a gentle sense of rarity to his everyday actions. Number 7. The Human Blockhead, Melvin Burkhart. Melvin Burkhart made people doubt their own anatomy. He'd slide a metal spike straight into his nasal cavity with a grin sharp enough to cut rope. The gasp that followed was always the same, a mix of fascination and regret for having sat too close. Melvin Burkhart treated his nose like a secret passage, guiding long nails inside as if showing a hidden doorway. He learned the trick after an injury made him curious about how far the nasal cavity really went, and he turned that curiosity into a whole act. People didn't expect a space behind the nose to stretch straight back, but he showed it with the same confident ease a magician uses when revealing a simple prop. He worked as a contortionist, sword swallower, fire eater, and more, but this strange little feat became his calling card and eventually spread across sideshows everywhere. Let's move ahead, because what's next bends reality in its own strange style. Number 6. Penguin Boy, Johnny Eck. The first time a Penguin Boy took the stage, the crowd leaned forward as one. A body ending too soon, arms doing the work of legs, movement that defied every rule of symmetry, yet carried a strange grace. Not pity, not fear, just awe at a life rewritten by anatomy. When people talk about Penguin Boys, they usually end up talking about Johnny Eck. He had sacral agenesis, a condition where much of the lower spine doesn't form, leaving him moving on his hands with a kind of practiced ease. It's one of those conditions you rarely hear about, something like one in tens of thousands of births, and very few cases are as visible or well documented as his. Other performers used the same banner title, but none carried the same recognition. Most of the time, Eck's name came up because he simply did more with what he had, making the title stick in a way others couldn't. Number 5. The Skeleton Man, Peter Robinson. Peter Robinson walked out in a tailored suit that hung from him like a scarecrow's costume. Every bone showed. Every angle seemed sharper than the last. Yet there was wit in his eyes. A quiet spark that made you forget the shock and notice the man inside the frame. Peter Robinson became known as the Living Skeleton and the Cigarette Fiend, appearing in circuses, sideshows, and the film Freaks. His adult weight was reported around 58 pounds, a figure that made him one of the most prominent skeletal performers of his era. He married performer Baby Bunny Smith, whose weight exceeded 400 pounds. Creating a contrast that promoters used frequently in publicity. Many performers of his type had chronic illnesses that caused extreme wasting, but Robinson's long career and survival into older age set him apart. Number 4. John Holtum. A hush swept the crowd as John Holtum braced himself for a cannon blast aimed directly at his chest. No illusion, no trick glass. Just a man daring physics to do its worst. When the smoke cleared and he still stood there, even the skeptics forgot how to swallow. John Holtum earned the title Cannonball King by performing a stunt that relied entirely on physical conditioning and nerve. He allowed heavy projectiles to be fired directly into his torso, an act that left little room for miscalculation. Unlike performers whose rarity stemmed from congenital conditions, Holtum's distinction came from the combination of musculature, technique, and risk tolerance required to withstand such force. Strongman historians treat him as a singular figure within this category, noting that few, if any, consistently repeated the stunt. Posters sometimes labeled him fireproof or blastproof, descriptions reflecting the intensity of his act rather than any special anatomical traits. Stay with me. This next person brings a detail you won't want to miss. Number 3. Claude Norris. Claude Norris didn't rely on fangs or cheap makeup to unsettle an audience. His presence did all the work. Tall, gaunt, and eerily composed, he drifted across the stage like he wasn't entirely tethered to the ground. People laughed, until he got close enough for them to stop. Claude Norris appeared in sideshow mentions as the Dracula Man, a title suggesting a performer styled around vampiric imagery. Early references point toward a regional act with limited circulation. Later notes describe him as either a costumed entertainer or a figure remembered from banner art. As researchers reviewed catalogs and archives, they found no solid biography, photographs, or medical descriptions linking him to a specific condition. Over time, his name became associated with the blurred space between actual performers and promotional exaggeration. In the absence of records, he remains placed at the edge of sideshow history, recognized more through repetition of the nickname than through documented activity. Number 2, the Hilton sisters. Violet and Daisy Hilton didn't step into the spotlight. They shared it seamlessly. Two personalities, one body, moving in perfect coordination. Audiences expected tragedy. Instead, they witnessed artistry. Their act wasn't defined by their condition, but by the uncanny rhythm only two inseparable souls could master. Daisy and Violet Hilton grew up learning how to move together long before they ever stepped onto a stage. Joined at the pelvis and lower spine, they carried a shared circulation but separate organs, giving them a physical closeness that shaped every choice they made. Their early years passed under guardianship that treated them as property, but their performance skills developed steadily, singing, dancing, and playing instruments with practiced unity. They became among the longest-living conjoined twins in documented history, appearing in vaudeville shows and later in films like Freaks. Number 1. Grace McDaniels. Grace McDaniels walked with a softness that stunned people expecting a grotesque spectacle. Her face bore a condition few had ever seen, yet her demeanor carried a quiet dignity that disarmed even the cruelest gawkers. What lingered wasn't shock. It was the unexpected gentleness she radiated. Grace McDaniels displayed the visible effects of Sturge-Weber syndrome, a rare vascular condition known for extensive birthmarks and tissue overgrowth. Her features aligned with some of the more severe presentations of the disorder, which contributed to the mule-faced woman title used in promotional materials. Despite the intensity of her condition, accounts described her as reserved and mannered, contrasting sharply with the way banners portrayed her. She worked for decades in Harry Lewiston's show, supporting her son through a steady career uncommon for women with similar visible differences outside circus environments. Her life reflected a prolonged presence within sideshow circuits built on physical uniqueness. If this video touches your heart, then subscribe so you can catch the next release without missing a beat. Drop a like if the content kept your attention, leave a comment below with your opinions, and share it. Your support means more than you realize. Thanks for watching all the way through.